I want to talk to you about survival mode. I talk about it a lot because I spent the majority of my life in it. And so for me, it would look like seasons of life when I'm going to bed at night and I'm laying my head down and I'm like, I did not take my life today. Check. Right? Because I had 4 kids, I was raising 4 kids, but I was so suicidal. And it was because I just needed a break from the pressure and the pain of narcissistic abuse. And so that is really common. So people get into survival mode, and I don't think people knew it. I think maybe they were like, there's something a little bit odd about her. I wasn't really invited to a lot of events because I was just peculiar. I had significant mental illness. I was in fear all the time that something would happen and feeling like it was up to me to determine what that thing would be and be ready for it. And so that is why I love Jesus so very much, because I lived in that state for so long. Even after knowing Jesus, my childhood, they say the first, I don't know, 5 or 7 years are the most impactful in a child's mind and brain and understanding love. And I was set into a playpen and, told not to cry. And, just nobody in my environment had the tenderness, the tenderheartedness to connect with me and see who I was and what I was about. And everybody was really concerned about how things looked. And also nobody had any emotional maturity. And so, if something went wrong, it could spiral into something. And so we all just worked real hard to keep it together. And that traumatized me because I just, like, I'm sure everyone else, although I'm just the only one saying it, was I need love. I needed someone to love me and to, like, I came into this body and into this world with this body, and I needed someone to love this that God provided. But instead, I came into an environment where people were like, no, it's too big. It's got, acne, or, oh gosh, oh, your makeup's wrong, or just, that kind of stuff. And so that was really difficult for me. And so going through that huge life of not feeling loved, not feeling valuable, put me in something that we call survival mode. And so that is when you are in existence just because you are a human being, like a species. So, like, living beings have this capacity to stay alive. Like cats have 9 lives, right? And so survival mode is an abuse victim's means of staying alive. It is no quality of life whatsoever. None. You don't know it because we hide it so well. I mean, I could probably win an Academy Award with the acting I'm able to do, because that's what happens when you're in survival mode. You lose connection with the rest of the world. You're like, you don't know what else is going on. That's why we get stuck at a certain age where a trauma happened, or perhaps, long-term trauma began. For example, my second marriage, when I entered that relationship at 19, was a significant blow to my mental capacity, because that was when I started believing bad things about myself, because that was the environment that I was choosing to be in. I was choosing to be in an environment that resonated with my home environment. Just a year or so before, I had been told to break up with my high school boyfriend, so I was not allowed to marry for love. And this happens to people. You think having money is just, wouldn't it be wonderful? Well, you have things like that when you're raised into a generational wealthy home. You don't get to marry your own way. You don't get to go fix someone and do whatever you want to do forever with them. It's got to be part of the system. And so I learned that when I was forced to break up with my high school boyfriend, and so who I wanted to marry. And so then I just began to lose just complete anything, right? I mean, what? So, like, growing up in a home where I'm raised in a playpen, and then going to boarding school, I found this guy that loved me. He loved me so much. But no, he just couldn't come because he didn't have the credentials. He didn't have the pedigree that needed to come with my family. Like, I mean, just, gosh, that is so contrary to who I am. But I was forced into that system because I was raised in an environment where there was money. And so I was not taught, I didn't have jobs. I would get a summer job because that's what everyone else did, but I didn't go work for money or anything like that. I didn't have that experience. And, you may be like, oh God, you're just so fortunate. I'll tell you what, I missed out. There's this camaraderie that happens at work. There's camaraderie that happens among people that are kind of working toward the same goal. And when you come into an environment where everything's just handed to you on a silver platter, you don't ever have that thrill and excitement or even the camaraderie. It's so lonely. You don't know other people. I'm not complaining. It may seem like I'm complaining. I'm just trying to help people understand that you can't just go around and hate someone because they were born into an environment where there was money. It's just horrible. You just don't want to ostracize people because of that, because you don't know what it's like to be born in that kind of environment. I do. It's super lonely, especially if you're not into money. I want relationships, and those are very hard to find on this upper tier, generational wealth circle where everything's full of social graces and there's so very little sincerity. And so it's just this style of communicating that goes on up in that circle, and it's just so insincere. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't handle that. I have to connect with people. And so it was killing me, and it put me into survival mode, okay? And so survival mode is just sort of like your whole body just goes like it would be like how you might feel if you touched an electric fence. It would send you kind of into shock. In survival mode, you're kind of like that all the time. And that's why, like, if somebody comes up to us and startles us, we're like, ah, right? I mean, do you do that? I don't do that really anymore because I'm not in survival mode as much. My central nervous system is calming down. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. So I have been married. It's my we got married in the courthouse on November 14th. So it's our wedding date. Anniversary. Anyway, it's been 8 years since we've been married, and he has been tender and loyal and loving, and he has act like Jacob going after Rachel. Okay, that's what he's been doing this whole marriage. He's been pursuing me, and I have not been easy. This has just been a nightmare. First of all, I was raised by such selfishness, so I didn't know anything else. I'm having to unlearn a lot of selfishness, and just being able to be know that somebody's going to be loyal to me and not leave when I cry or freak out or act really rude, because I've had so much ugliness poured into me, and it just comes out. It's just awful, and it does come out in our marriage, and I'm so sorry. In fact, this morning he had to tell me, he's like, look, you're just kind of acting like I can't do anything right. And I'm like, oh, whoops, sorry. Thanks for telling me, because that is just not acceptable. That is stuff that's inside of me. I need to get out, get over with it, whatever, but I can't project it onto someone that I love. And we tend to do that. And so if you do that, I want you to recognize it's normal. You don't have to go climb into a hole because you do that. Okay, that's not, you're not a failure. You're not the worst person alive because you project negative things onto a loved one. That is very human thing to do. Okay, and so if you do that, it's important to recognize and say, hey, you know what? I could have shown up better, right? That's it. I could have shown up better. Not a lot of shame. And if you're feeling shame, then you're going to need to go to Jesus and say, hey, Jesus, I got a little bit more shame for you. And guess what he's going to say? He's going to say, great, I got it, because that's what it's for. That's what I died for. Shame and guilt and fear and all these things. So yeah, I'll take it for you. Yeah, I got it. So if you're feeling shame, first of all, make sure you've given it to the cross of Christ and said, hey, I can't carry this shame. And you can't carry shame about something that you had no control over, right? I cannot control the fact that I was born into an abusive environment and that I had some very outrageous behavior as a result of it. I have I have done horrible things to my body, my mind, my soul, my spirit. I've been places I shouldn't be. But the thing is, I had to come to terms with the fact that I am a human being. I was essentially tortured. I was tortured. I needed love so badly. And they made it seem like they didn't understand that. And I just had to be someone in order to be loved. And it wasn't who I am. And so, what a nightmare. What a nightmare. It was such a nightmare. So I was in survival mode. And so when I'm 8 years into my marriage and I'm still in survival mode, I still all the time have first thought of what could go wrong. And just that's just my very first thought. I don't exist as a safe being on this planet. And I know that so many people are with me. And that's why it's so important we talk about it, because if you don't talk about it, you're like, oh my gosh, you do too? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I read about it all the time. There's so many of us. We've just been so traumatized and or in one way or another, like a lot of our trauma is just coming from our ancestors that comes into something called epigenetics, and so it can genetically pass through to different generations, but it also is going to through behaviors. Like so many of our parents wanted to be something they weren't, or because of all the depravity that was going on in our country when it first started, these like, and all the division with people being like Catholic or Irish or blah blah blah, like Jewish and everybody black and white, everybody had to be like, you couldn't blend, right? I mean, that's changing, thank goodness, but like that's how it was. And so they like the social means and the money and all of the society thing was so important to our ancestors, and that nonsense got passed down to us. And so like that's how I was raised, like as if that were one of the most important things in the world, was a social status and appearance. And like those are I have to unlearn all that. I mean, I can't tell you, for like just until very recently have I gotten to a place in life when I'm having people over and I'm not concerned about what they think or what they see in my home. I'm like just happy to have their energy here and to share it and to create memories together. And that is really, really special. It's also really different for my bloodline. I mean, I don't know if people took it as seriously as I did, but I'm a bit type A. And so, it's like, you got to have your house perfect. When people come in there, they're going to judge you, this, that, and the other. And I just put all my energy into making it and I'm sure people were like, get me the heck out of here. And I get it. I was so mentally ill from this horrid abuse and lack of love, emotional neglect, all this stuff that I suffered at the hands of narcissists. And I'm still recovering from it. And so if you're in my place, or a lot of people will marry into narcissism unknowingly. They don't actually have narcissistic parents. I mean, I see parents all the time that are just dumbfounded because their child's married a narcissist. And I'm like, generally there's something in our bloodline that is being unaddressed when that happens. So like healthy people they marry healthy people. That's just how it is. There's healthy circles. Healthy people attract. I know, because I've been on this recovery journey and I am like surrounded by healthy people now. And just like, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is phenomenal. Just being around smart, healthy people that never, not even once, talk about another human being. It's just everybody's so interested in bettering our planet and giving to other people, talking about their grants and activities and things that they're involved in. And it's so different than what I'm used to, where there's just a lot of distance and a lot of like, this fake kind of relationship. So there's not really any connection. And it's just, So you're looking at other people's stuff. It's all external. What do they have? Oh, that's cute. I'll do it. Or you just, it's just so shallow. But I did not know there was anything else, because another part of my environment was we were groomed to look down at healthy people, healthy Christian people, in fact, especially like, they're just, they think they're so great, or they just, wow, and he doesn't even fart, just really looking down at people who are out doing good things and making something out of their life. And so that's a culture that I grew up in, and I know a lot of people are in it. And so um, I'm going to talk a little bit about the election, because I know a lot of people are really confused. And I'll be honest with you, I voted for Donald Trump. If you didn't, I love you anyway. So I'm not that girl. But I did vote for him, and I want to tell you why. Because he signifies that safety that I'm moving into. I came from such a chaotic, disorganized, dysfunctional background where I lived on my feelings, and there was nothing solid. I didn't have a foundation to stand on. And so my Christian faith has given me a solid foundation in what I believe. And I believe that God is going to use Donald Trump to bring safety and security to our country, that it's going to help us define. I think so many of the lifestyles have gotten so far out of anything most of us really are comfortable living with. And so we definitely needed to have this breakthrough from our ancestors who were dividing and pointing people, oh, you're gay, you're out of here, right? No, that is not acceptable. And so unfortunately, what's been going on, I can see it, is this just extreme fear that somehow Donald Trump is like just the devil, and he's just going to come and destroy everything. And so he's not. He's not at all. And I can see it because I'm recovering from mental illness, and I can see who he is. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're going to help this economy. You're going to help us be safe. You're going to help our citizens thrive. You're going to make a place for immigrants to come in legally, as it should be. We are a melting pot, and we have always been. And yes, but let's do it legally. Yeah. And so I feel personally safer with that than. And I know that he's not out to take away anyone's, and I don't even consider it a right. I consider it a baby. So anyway, I would never have talked politics. So I'm going to ask, if you don't attack me for what I shared, that'd be best, because I took a risk. I did it. I felt like the Lord was calling me to share, and I hope I didn't hurt anybody. And I just want you to know that I love everybody, on however you feel. So back to survival mode. I think you're getting a little bit of a better idea of what it is. And, I don't know if my level might be more severe but it's not any more severe than someone who's being trafficked, or someone who's growing up in a cult. I had no rights to be my own person. I had to be part of this mold to be able to sustain this money lifestyle. And honestly, there was like this big dangling, account. Well, if you play your cards right, you're going to get some of this pot, and that is just more than you can imagine. And I was just like, I so want just a dad. I just want like a buddy, like someone that loves me and cares about me and spends time with me. And so, just again, I just want to just say, if you're mean to people because they have money, just think about it. You don't know what other people have been through. None of us really know what's going on behind the scenes of someone else's life. Want to take a little side break and tell you something very exciting, because you've followed me into this far. I have been contacted by a publisher and been receiving a lot of activity around my book, and I think they're pretty excited about it. So I need an assistant to help me with it, because it's really, really messy. It was just so much emotion, etc. But she's not available till January. So it's gonna take a couple months here, but we're gonna get the ball really rolling, and I'm pretty excited. So I just wanted to tell you that. So thanks for being there with me. And everyone asks about it all the time, and I'm like, I don't know, but this is really exciting. So I think my job is done with it. So I'm like ready to move on to the next one. All right. I want to just say a couple last things about survival mode. It is not life. You can get out of survival mode. If you're stunned in survival mode, if you've kind of got that electric fence thing going on, if like somebody were to touch you and you were just do that, right? That's not God's best for you. And God has also equipped you with what you need to recover from that. And it takes some time. Okay. I'm still in recovery. I was telling you about my marriage. I've been married to this man who has just proven his love for me over and over and over and over and over and over. I mean, every time he says stuff like, I can't believe I'm married to you, like my first response is like, you sure act that way. I mean, I don't believe it because I had such a hard time being loved. And I've lost everyone I loved before him. But it's for the better because my love wasn't well. It was a toxic love. And okay, I'm going to do something I'm going to sing to you because I want to talk about survival mode in the real world. And so Tracy Chapman's song, where she's like, you got a fast car and I got a plan that'll get us out of here. Been working at a convenience store. Managed to save just a little bit of money. Won't have to drive too far. Just cross the border and into the suburbs. You and I can both get jobs and finally see what it means to be living. So that is survival mode. Those are two people that are surviving in a city and they're like, listen, you got the fast car. I got the plan. We're gonna get out of here. We can get a job. I've been working at a convenience store. We got this thing. So that's not a long-term plan, but people do it all the time. They just find this person. They're like, yeah, let's do this. So you go do this. And a lot of times in years past, not so much these days, but people would get married. And then you're married to that kind of that trauma bond. And you're like, it's hard to get well. If one person's ready to get well, the other one's not. And it's a trauma bond. It's messy. And it's like, So when someone's trying to get well, and just you need to know this, because if you're on your recovery journey, which I most certainly hope you are, and I'm proud of you, is that you're going to detach from your past. You're going to be like like a little sky rocket type of thing. You're gonna break free and just do your own thing. And it's gonna be really different than what your roots looked like. But your roots didn't work for you, right? Mine didn't work for me. They hurt me. They brought me down. I hear, there's amazing how many people try and make me feel guilty for having put distance between myself and my family. And it's the most insensitive thing they could do. And, honestly, it's so insensitive because it's people that don't know what it was like to be shamed and hurt and neglected and all this stuff that I needed love my whole life. And they wouldn't give it to me, and then had me marry someone who also wouldn't give it to me. So it was a long, long time before I was loved. And my second husband is the first one that loved me. And he changed my life. He changed my world. And then they tried to take him from me. And, when I'm talking to people in the psychology field, they're like, of course they did, right? But in the other world, oh, really? I doubt it. There's two sides to every story. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's how that went, And so I've been like, okay, I just hit my rock bottom twice. There were 2 episodes that sent me rock bottom, and then another one with a child. I've had some big rock bottoms in the last 5 years, and enough that I'm unrecognizable, which is good. It's really, really good, because anyone who knew me before now only knew a shadow of me and only knew the presentable part of me, the part that I would be comfortable, making you think that I was someone that I wasn't, because I was really in just complete misery. So anyway, getting out of survival mode, you're going to have to accept the fact you need to break up with your current lifestyle, habits, people, everything, and get to know who you are. Find out who you are. It's all cliches. You found yourself. Yeah, go find yourself. Because if you've grown up in an abusive environment, or you've married into one, or you're working in one, or your neighbor, whatever it is, your sibling, something, if you're in an abusive relationship, you don't have the liberty to go do what you want to do ever, 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 ever. They've got like a little leash on you, and you know it, but it doesn't look like there's one on there. No one else sees it, right? And so you're like, wait, is that real? Because they're gaslighting you all the time, lying to you, making you question yourself, all this stuff. So you're insecure. You're showing up in this world like everything's perfect, because you don't understand what life is about, because you are in survival mode. Get out of survival mode. In order to do it, you have to find a safe place to go. You have to find people that will surround you and love you as you're going through your recovery journey, which is not going to be pretty, because there's a lot of stuff you've been through that you couldn't deal with. You had to move on. The kids needed to do whatever, things needed to be done, and you had to do that. So you had to stuff it down, move on, and your bloodline is going to be stunted until someone deals with it. So it could be you. I don't care how old you are. You could be in your 80s. Go find a healthy professional. Just because someone's a counselor doesn't make them healthy. To be honest with you, I don't have a counselor right now because I can't find one who has done the amount of work that I've done. Someone that can be a leader for me. It's hard, right? I've done a ton of work. It was very grueling and painful, and I've let it all out and I've moved through it. And you have to do that to be well. And you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it for your bloodline. You're doing it for your children and your grandchildren. Well, they've already moved out. No, you're still their mom. I guarantee you, even though I don't have a close relationship with my children right now, I guarantee you they probably still feel that connection somewhat. I hope they don't act like it, but I hope they do, and that's my getting better and being an example for them, even if I'm not connected with them right now, is going to have an impact on their children and their children and their children. Do it. Don't live in survival mode. Then these babies are born into these homes. These parents are in survival mode. Don't do it. It's not fair. There is health out there. There is recovery. You can do it. I don't care how old you are. You can do it. You need to get some help. You need to get safe. You need a support system. You need to get away from your current support system because they're not supporting you, or you wouldn't be in survival mode, okay? Support systems are what surround you and cause you to relax and know that you're safe, right? And don't be kidding yourself either. It doesn't happen overnight. I am 8 years into a marriage, 9 years into a relationship that he has never hurt me intentionally. All right. I felt hurt by things he's done, but he has never hurt me intentionally. And that's 9 years. He loves me. He does anything for me. He is such an incredible man, such an incredible husband. And I'm mean to him still because I'm getting this stuff out, and he forgives me, and he gives me another chance because he understands, and he's my partner. And he's, you need someone like that. He does like the way I look. And so I do dress up for him all the time because, my gosh, I've got to counter the crazy a little bit, right? So I do. If you were to look at his Facebook page, Brian Cheney, you would see me pretty dressed up, snazzed out, because I do that for him because it's so meaningful to him. And he He buys the clothes. He buys the clothes. He loves them. He buys them. He cares for them. I wear them. Come on. That's an easy, easy deal. Anyway, I'm going to take a minute and pray for you. Lord, I just pray for this person that is hung in this whole time, Lord. Lord, I just ask that you would just be with them. Reach into their heart so they can feel your presence, Lord. Lord, let's make sure you're their God. If Jesus is not your Lord and Savior and you are ready to ask him to be right now, join me in this prayer. Lord, I am a sinner in need of a Savior. Lord, I am desperate, absolutely desperate for something other than what I have going on, God. God, I am angry. I want things to be different and they're not. And I can't control things, Lord. And I give right now everything to you. I trust you, God, with the President of the United States. I trust you with family. I trust you with people that I love and can't be near. I trust you with my ambitions, my projects, my mind, my body, my soul, my love life, my romance, my sex life, everything, God, I give to you. And I receive Jesus as my Savior. I believe that the blood of Christ is all that is necessary for sanctification from sin. And I receive that right now in your holy name. Amen. And if you prayed that, please make sure you share that with someone who you know is praying for you. You know who your praying people are. You could say, hey, I accepted Jesus as my Lord and Savior. I wanted to tell you. And they would just be so, so thrilled to hear that. So I'm going to go back to the other prayer over you. Lord, I just ask that you would be in this person's space, in the head of them, behind, beside, above, below, surrounding them as if they were in a barrel. Lord, just kind of hidden in your protection and your provision, Lord. Lord, people that are in survival mode are fearful, Lord. I love your Psalm 91 is always where I went in my deepest fear to find out your presence in my life, God. Lord, I just ask that you would be with this individual and help them to understand your will. Because if your will is for them to be in a different environment, you will provide. Lord, all they need to do is trust. And that is such a hard thing to do, Lord. But once we trust you a little bit, you meet our needs, we can trust you with more. So Lord, I just ask that you would be with this individual right now and just wrap them up in your arms. Hold them in nice and tight, Lord. Let them know how much you love them. Lord, you know what we do. You know what we think. You know what we say. You know our humanity, and you love us anyway. You're not that dad. You're not the dad that says you must be this person to be part of my family. You are the dad that says, I want to be in your presence. You've got sin. I made an easy way out. You need to accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior and then come on in forever. We're never able to lose our salvation, okay? I hope you're doing well. Hang in there. I'm praying for you. You got this thing. If you are doing hard things, I want you to hear me in your head say, you got this thing. You got this thing. You got this thing. You got this thing.